The morning bell rang at Lincoln Elementary School and children rushed through the hallways like a wave of color and noise. Backpacks bumped against shoulders, sneakers squeaked on the polished floors, and laughter echoed off the walls. But in the corner near the water fountain, two small figures stood perfectly still. The twins were 8 years old. The boy wore a jacket 2 sizes too big, the sleeves covering his hands completely. The girl clutched a torn notebook against her chest, her eyes fixed on the ground. They didn't run like the other children. They didn't laugh or shout or chase their friends. They simply waited until the hallway emptied, then walked slowly to their classroom. Nobody really noticed them anymore. At least that's what it seemed like. Their teacher, Mrs. Patterson, had taught 3rd grade for 15 years. She'd seen all kinds of kids walk through her door. Some were bright and eager, others struggled and needed extra help. But these two had become invisible to her somehow. They sat in the back row, never raised their hands, never caused trouble. In a classroom of 25 students, it was easy to focus on the ones who demanded attention. The twins arrived late more often than not. Sometimes their homework was done, sometimes it wasn't. Mrs. Patterson would mark it in her gradebook with a red pen and move on. There were parent-teacher conferences to prepare for, lesson plans to write, standardized tests to worry about. 2 quiet children who kept to themselves didn't ring any alarm bells. At lunch, things were always the same. The cafeteria filled with the smell of chicken nuggets and French fries. Kids traded snacks and argued over who got to sit where. The twins sat at the end of a table near the emergency exit. The boy would pull out a small bag of crackers from his pocket. The girl would produce a bruised apple. They'd split everything exactly in half, eating slowly, making it last. Other kids had lunch boxes filled with sandwiches, juice boxes, cookies. The twins had whatever they could find at home that morning. Sometimes that was a handful of cereal in a plastic bag. Sometimes it was nothing at all. A few tables away, some boys were laughing about a video game. One of them glanced over at the twins and nudged his friend. "Those two are weird," he whispered. His friend shrugged and went back to his pizza. That was the extent of it. The twins were weird, different, not worth thinking about, but someone was thinking about them. Her name was Jennifer Cole, and she'd just started working at Lincoln Elementary 3 weeks ago. She was the new school counselor, fresh out of graduate school and full of ideas about making a difference. The job before this had been at a private school where the biggest crisis was a student not getting into their first-choice summer camp. She'd wanted something more meaningful. She'd wanted to actually help kids who needed it. Jennifer had an office barely bigger than a closet, tucked between the nurse's station and the janitor's supply room. She'd tried to make it welcoming with some plants and colorful posters, but it still felt cramped and dark. Most days she met with students who'd gotten into fights or were failing classes. She'd listen, take notes, and make recommendations that may or may not be followed. But during lunch duty, when she had to monitor the cafeteria, she'd started noticing the twins. It began with small things. The way they never went through the lunch line. The way the boy's jacket looked dirty and worn. The way the girl flinched when someone walked too close to her. Jennifer found herself watching them more closely each day, a knot forming in her stomach that she couldn't explain. On Thursday of her 3rd week, Jennifer was walking past the twins' classroom when she heard Mrs. Patterson talking to another teacher in the hallway. "I don't know what to do with those Miller twins," Mrs. Patterson was saying. "They're falling behind in everything. Math, reading, science. I've sent 3 notes home with them, but the father never responds." "Have you called him?" the other teacher asked. "I tried once. The number went to voicemail and the box was full. Honestly, I don't have time to chase down every parent who won't engage. I've got 23 other students to worry about." The other teacher nodded sympathetically. "Some parents just don't care, I guess." They walked away and Jennifer stood frozen in the hallway. The Miller twins. She finally had names for the 2 quiet children who'd been haunting her thoughts. That afternoon, Jennifer pulled their files from the records room. The information was sparse. Father's name was Robert Miller. Mother was listed as not in the home. There was an address in the older part of town near the industrial district. Emergency contact was the father's cell phone number. No other relatives listed. The attendance record showed multiple tardies and absences. No pattern, but enough to be noticeable. Previous teachers had left brief notes. Quiet students. Needs improvement in all subjects. Parent contact unsuccessful. Nobody had dug deeper. Nobody had asked why. Jennifer closed the file and sat back in her chair. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe the father was just a busy single parent doing his best. Maybe the twins were naturally shy and struggled in school. Maybe everything was fine. But she couldn't shake the image of them sitting alone at lunch, carefully dividing one small apple between two hungry children. The next morning, Jennifer made a point to be in the hallway when students arrived. She watched the twins walk through the front doors at 8:40, 20 minutes after the bell. The boy's jacket had a new stain on the sleeve. The girl was limping slightly, favoring her left foot. Jennifer approached them with a gentle smile. "Hey there, I'm Mrs. Cole, the school counselor. I don't think we've officially met yet." The twins looked at her with wide, cautious eyes. Neither spoke. "I just wanted to check in and see how things are going. How do you like third grade so far?" The boy glanced at his sister. The girl stared at the floor. The silence stretched out, heavy and uncomfortable. "Well," Jennifer said, keeping her voice light, "my office is right down this hallway if you ever want to talk about anything. Anything at all, okay?" The smallest nod from the boy. Nothing from the girl. Then they turned and hurried toward their classroom, the boy's too big jacket flapping behind him. Jennifer watched them go, that knot in her stomach tightening into something harder. Something that felt like certainty. Back in her office, she picked up the phone and dialed the County Child Protective Services hotline. She'd never made a report before. Her hands were shaking as she waited for someone to answer. When the caseworker picked up, Jennifer took a deep breath and began to speak. She described what she'd seen. The inadequate lunches, the dirty clothes, the isolation, the lack of parent involvement. It all spilled out in a rush. The caseworker listened, typing notes. When Jennifer finished, there was a pause. "Thank you for calling this in," the caseworker said. Her voice sounded tired. "I'll create a case file and assign it for investigation. Given the information provided, this would be classified as a low-priority referral. We'll try to make contact within 30 days. 30 days. Jennifer's voice rose. "But what if something happens before then?" "Ma'am, I understand your concern, but we have over 200 active cases right now. Without evidence of immediate danger, I can't move this to emergency status. The children are attending school. They're not reporting abuse, and the concerns are primarily neglect-related. We'll investigate, but it takes time." Jennifer hung up, feeling hollow. 30 days felt like forever. She didn't know then that 30 days would be far too long. She didn't know that in just 72 hours everything would change. And she had no idea that her decision to pay attention, to actually see these two invisible children, would end up costing her everything she'd worked for. But that was still to come. For now, the twins walked to their classroom, sat in their seats in the back row, and tried their best to disappear. Jennifer couldn't stop thinking about the twins. At night, she'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the image of them splitting that single apple. During the day, she found herself looking for them in the hallways, checking on them during lunch, watching from a distance. She started keeping a notebook. Tuesday, November 3rd. Boy wearing same jacket as yesterday, visible stain on front. Girl has dark circles under eyes. Both children ate crackers from a Ziploc bag for lunch. Wednesday, November 4th. 20 minutes late to school. Girl limping worse than before. Asked nurse to check her foot, but twins didn't show up to health office. Her supervisor, Mr. Hendricks, noticed the extra attention. He was a man in his late 50s who'd been with the district for 30 years. He'd seen counselors come and go, most of them young and idealistic at first, then slowly worn down by the reality of underfunded schools and overwhelming caseloads. He called Jennifer into his office on a Friday afternoon. "I've been hearing that you're spending a lot of time focused on the Miller twins," he said, not unkindly. "I appreciate your dedication, but you need to be careful about getting too invested in individual cases." Jennifer felt her cheeks flush. "I filed a report with CPS. I'm just following up." "That's good. You did what you're supposed to do. Now let the system handle it." He leaned back in his chair, his expression softening. "Look, I get it. You're new, you want to save every kid. But there are boundaries for a reason. We can't take on everyone's problems or we'll burn out before we can help anyone. But what if the system doesn't handle it fast enough?" Jennifer heard the frustration in her own voice. "What if something happens while we're waiting?" Mr. Hendricks sighed. "Then that's on the system, not on you. You did your job. Now focus on the other students who need you too. Jennifer left his office feeling worse than before. She understood what he was saying. She really did. But understanding didn't make it any easier to watch two children slowly fade away in front of everyone's eyes. The following Monday, the boy didn't come to school. The girl showed up alone, even quieter than usual if that was possible. During lunch, she sat at the empty table and didn't eat anything at all. Just stared at the spot where her brother usually sat. Jennifer approached her carefully. "Sweetheart, where's your brother today?" The girl's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't answer. She just shook her head and looked away. "Is he sick? Is someone taking care of him at home?" Still nothing. The girl stood up, grabbed her torn notebook, and walked away. Jennifer watched her go, that knot in her stomach now feeling like a stone. She went back to her office and called CPS again. A different caseworker answered this time. Jennifer explained the situation, mentioned her previous report, asked if anyone had made contact with the family yet. "Let me pull up the file," the caseworker said. Jennifer could hear typing in the background. "Okay, I see the initial report filed on October 29th. Case was assigned to investigator Rodriguez. According to these notes, he attempted a home visit on November 2nd, but no one answered the door. He left a card with his contact information. He's scheduled for a follow-up visit next week." "Next week?" "One of the children didn't come to school today. The other one won't talk. Something's wrong." "Has the child reported any abuse or immediate danger?" "She won't talk to me at all." "Then I can't escalate this without more concrete evidence. The investigator will make another attempt next week. If you observe anything that indicates immediate danger, call us back right away." Jennifer hung up feeling helpless. She thought about calling the father's number again, even though it had gone straight to a full voicemail box before. She thought about driving to their address after work. But Mr. Hendricks's words echoed in her mind. Boundaries, professional distance, let the system work. That night she barely slept. Tuesday, the boy was back at school, but something was different. He moved slower, more carefully, like every step hurt. At lunch, Jennifer watched as the girl pulled out a sleeve of crackers. The boy shook his head when she offered him half. He wasn't eating at all. Jennifer made a decision. She walked over to their table and sat down. "I'm worried about you two," she said quietly, "and I want to help. But I can't help if you don't talk to me." The twins looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them, the kind only siblings can share. Finally, the boy spoke. His voice was so soft Jennifer had to lean in to hear him. "We're okay. Are you? Because you don't seem okay." The girl's hand found her brother's under the table. They held on tight. "Where's your dad?" Jennifer asked. "Is he at home?" The boy's jaw clenched. He looked away. "He's working. He works a lot. When was the last time you saw him?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Jennifer felt her heart breaking. "Listen to me. If you're home alone, if you need help, you can tell me. I promise I'll do everything I can to help you." The girl's eyes met hers for just a second, and Jennifer saw something there that made her blood run cold. It was fear. Deep, overwhelming fear. Not of whatever was happening at home, but of what might happen if anyone found out. The bell rang. Lunch was over. The twins stood up and walked away without another word. Jennifer went straight to Mr. Hendricks's office. She told him everything. The boy being absent, the way they were acting, the fear in the girl's eyes. She practically begged him to do something, anything. He listened with his hands folded on his desk. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "I'll make a call to CPS myself," he finally said. "I'll emphasize the urgency. But Jennifer, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that this might not resolve the way you want it to. Sometimes kids fall through the cracks. It's not fair, it's not right, but it's reality." "I can't accept that," Jennifer said. "Then you're in the wrong profession," he replied, not unkindly, "because it happens every day." The next morning, Wednesday, neither twin came to school. Jennifer called their home number from the file. It rang and rang, then went to a generic voicemail. She left a message asking the father to call the school immediately. By Thursday, still nothing. Both children absent. No phone call. No explanation. Jennifer drove past their address after work. It was an old apartment building with peeling paint and trash in the parking lot. She sat in her car for 10 minutes debating whether to go knock on the door. But what would she say? What authority did she have? She drove home but couldn't eat dinner. Her fiancé Tom asked what was wrong. She tried to explain, but even as the words came out, she could hear how it sounded. Two kids she barely knew. A situation she wasn't trained to handle. Concerns that might be overblown. You called the right people, Tom said, trying to be supportive. That's all you can do. You can't take this home with you every night. But she was taking it home. It was all she could think about. Friday morning, the girl showed up to school alone again. No brother. Jennifer found her in the hallway before class. Where is he? Jennifer asked. Where's your brother? The girl looked up at her with eyes that had seen too much for 8 years old. Home, she whispered. Is someone taking care of him? The smallest shake of her head. Sweetheart, is your dad home? Another headshake. When was the last time you saw your dad? The girl's lips trembled. I don't remember. Jennifer's hands were shaking now. How long have you and your brother been alone? I don't know. A while. Days, weeks? The girl's tears finally spilled over. Please don't tell. They'll take us away. They'll split us up. Everyone says that's what happens. No, sweetheart. That's not. But the girl was already running down the hallway, disappearing into her classroom. Jennifer stood there in the empty hallway, her heart pounding. She thought about protocol, about boundaries, about letting the system work. Then she thought about two children alone in an apartment with no food and no adult. One of them too sick or weak to even come to school. She pulled out her phone and dialed CPS again. When the caseworker answered, Jennifer's voice was steady and clear. This is an emergency. I need someone at this address right now today. Two children are being neglected. I believe they're in immediate danger. The caseworker took down the information. She said someone would try to get there by end of business day. Jennifer looked at the clock on the wall. It was 8:30 in the morning. End of business day was hours away. Too many hours. She thought about the boy alone in that apartment. She thought about the girl, terrified of asking for help because she'd been told the system would tear them apart. She thought about everyone who'd seen these children struggling and had done nothing. The teachers, the neighbors, the other parents, everyone who'd looked the other way, and she made a decision that would change everything. When the final bell rang that afternoon, Jennifer waited by the front entrance. When the girl walked out, Jennifer was there. Come with me, she said softly. We're going to check on your brother. The girl's eyes went wide. I can't, I'm not supposed to, it's okay. I'm here to help. I promise. They got into Jennifer's car. The girl gave her directions in a small, scared voice. The apartment building looked even worse in daylight. They climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled like mildew and something rotten. The girl pulled out a key from under her shirt, hanging on a string around her neck. Her hand shook as she unlocked the door. The apartment was dark and cold. Dirty dishes were piled in the sink. There was no food visible anywhere. Where is he? Jennifer asked. The girl pointed to a closed bedroom door. Jennifer opened it and found him there. Curled up on a bare mattress, no blanket, shivering. The boy opened his eyes when the light hit his face. Hi, Jennifer said gently. How are you feeling? Cold, he whispered. Really cold? Jennifer touched his forehead. He was burning up with fever. And in that moment, standing in that cold, empty apartment with two sick, scared children, Jennifer knew exactly what she had to do. She knew it would probably cost her everything. Her job, maybe even her freedom, but she also knew she couldn't walk away. Not this time. Jennifer stood in that dark apartment, looking at the sick boy on the mattress and his terrified sister beside her, and every rule she'd ever learned about professional boundaries vanished from her mind. We need to get him to a doctor, she said, more to herself than to the girl. No hospitals, the girl said quickly, panic rising in her voice. They'll call someone. They'll take us away. Sweetheart, your brother is really sick. He needs medicine. Please, the girl begged. Please don't call anyone. We'll be okay. We always are. Jennifer knelt down to the girl's level. How long has your dad been gone? The girl's chin trembled. I don't know exactly. Maybe 5 days? Maybe more? 5 days? You've been taking care of your brother alone for 5 days? A small nod. He left money at first. $20. But it ran out. I got crackers and bread from the corner store. I tried to make it last. Jennifer felt sick. This little girl, 8 years old, trying to keep herself and her brother alive on $20. Where did your dad go? I don't know. He just said he had to go take care of something. He said he'd be back soon, but he didn't come back. Jennifer looked around the apartment again. No heat, no food. A sick child. An impossible situation. She thought about calling CPS right now, but she'd already called them twice. They'd said someone would come by end of day. But that could be hours from now, and this boy needed help immediately. She thought about calling an ambulance, but the girl was right. The moment they arrived, the system would kick in. The children would be taken into emergency custody, probably separated, placed wherever there was space. Maybe that was the right thing to do. Maybe that was the only thing to do. But looking at the terror in the girl's eyes, Jennifer couldn't bring herself to make that call. "Okay," she heard herself saying. "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to my house. Just for tonight. I'll get your brother some medicine. Make sure you both eat a real meal, and tomorrow we'll figure out the next steps. Okay?" The girl stared at her. "We can't just leave. Why not? What if Dad comes back and we're not here?" Jennifer took a deep breath. "Then I'll bring you right back. I promise. But right now your brother needs help, and you both need food and a warm place to sleep. Let me help you, please." The girl looked at her brother, then back at Jennifer. Finally, she nodded. Getting the boy to the car was harder than Jennifer expected. He could barely walk. She ended up carrying him most of the way, his hot skin burning through her shirt. The girl followed close behind, clutching her torn notebook like a lifeline. Jennifer's house was 20 minutes away. During the drive, her mind raced. What was she doing? This was insane. She'd just taken 2 children from their home without permission, without legal authority, without telling anyone. This wasn't helping. This was possibly kidnapping. But when she looked in the rearview mirror at the boy's flushed face and the girl's worried eyes, she couldn't regret it. Not yet. Tom was home when they arrived. He stood in the kitchen making dinner, and his face went from confused to shocked when Jennifer walked in carrying a sick child, another trailing behind her. "What's going on?" he asked. "I need you to trust me," Jennifer said. "Can you do that?" He looked at the children, then at her. "Jennifer, who are these kids?" "The twins I told you about. The ones from school. Their father abandoned them. The boy is sick. They haven't eaten properly in days. I couldn't just leave them there." Tom's voice dropped to a whisper. "You took them? From their home? I know how this looks. How this looks. Jennifer, this is illegal. You could be arrested. You could lose your job. What were you thinking?" "I was thinking that a child needed help and nobody else was helping." They stared at each other across the kitchen. The twins stood between them, silent witnesses to the argument. Tom ran his hand through his hair. Okay. What's done is done. But you need to call someone right now." "CPS, the police, someone. I will. First thing in the morning. Tonight I just want to make sure they're okay." Tom didn't look happy, but he didn't argue. He went back to cooking, adding extra portions for the children. Jennifer took the boy to the bathroom and found a thermometer. His fever was high, but not dangerously so. She gave him children's medicine from the cabinet and helped him into the guest bedroom. The girl hovered in the doorway, watching everything. "He's going to be okay," Jennifer told her. "The medicine will help bring the fever down. He just needs rest and food." "Thank you," the girl whispered. They ate dinner together at the kitchen table. The twins devoured everything on their plates, then looked embarrassed when Tom offered seconds. They ate those too. Jennifer watched them, her heart aching. When was the last time they'd had a real meal? After dinner, she found clean clothes for them to sleep in. Tom's old t-shirts swallowed them like dresses. The girl took a shower, and the water ran brown at first from the dirt. Jennifer washed their school clothes in the washing machine, planning ahead for tomorrow even though she had no idea what tomorrow would bring. By 9 o'clock, both children were asleep in the guest room. The girl curled protectively around her brother. Jennifer closed the door softly and went back to the living room where Tom was waiting. "We need to talk," he said. They sat on the couch, and Jennifer felt exhaustion wash over her. "I know what you're going to say, do you? Because I'm not even sure what to say. Jennifer, I love that you care about these kids. But what you did today crossed a line. A serious line. I know. You could be charged with kidnapping. Do you understand that? Even if your intentions were good, you took children who weren't yours without permission from anyone. Their father abandoned them, Tom. He left 2 8-year-old children alone with $20. Where was I supposed to leave them? In that freezing apartment with no food? You were supposed to call the authorities and let them handle it. I did call them twice. They said they'd send someone by end of day. It's 9 o'clock at night and nobody came. Tom sighed. So what's the plan now? In the morning, I'll call CPS again. I'll explain what happened. I'll take full responsibility. And your job? Jennifer looked toward the guest room where the children were sleeping. I don't know. Probably gone. And us? She turned to look at him. What do you mean? I mean, are you prepared for what this is going to do to our lives? We're supposed to get married in 6 months. We're saving for a house. We have plans, Jennifer. And now you've brought home 2 kids who aren't ours, who have a whole mess of problems. And you're about to get yourself in serious legal trouble. So what are you saying? I'm saying I need you to think about what you're risking here. For 2 children you barely know. Jennifer felt something cold settle in her chest. They're not just 2 children I barely know. They're 2 kids who were dying slowly while everyone looked the other way. Including me at first, and that's not fair, isn't it? We all saw them, Tom. The teachers, the staff, me. We all noticed something was wrong. But it was easier to fill out a report and go home and forget about it. It was easier to let the system handle it. Except the system wasn't handling it fast enough. Tom stood up. I need some air. He grabbed his jacket and left. Jennifer heard his car start in the driveway, then pull away. She sat alone in the quiet house. In the guest room, one of the twins coughed. Jennifer got up and checked on them. The boy's fever seemed lower. His breathing was easier. The girl was sleeping deeply, her face peaceful for the first time since Jennifer had met her. Jennifer went to her own room and tried to sleep, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. Tomorrow everything would fall apart. CPS would be furious. Her supervisor would be beyond angry. The school board would probably fire her. Tom might leave her. Her whole life, everything she'd built could crumble. But those 2 children were warm and fed and safe tonight. That had to count for something. At 2 in the morning, she heard footsteps in the hallway. The girl appeared in her doorway, silhouetted by the bathroom nightlight. I'm sorry, the girl said quietly. Jennifer sat up. Sorry for what? For causing trouble. My brother and me, we always cause trouble. That's what Dad says. Oh, sweetheart, no. You didn't cause any of this. Come here. The girl climbed onto the bed and curled up next to Jennifer. She was so small, so fragile. Are they going to take us away? The girl asked. Jennifer couldn't lie to her. I don't know what's going to happen. But I promise you, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you and your brother are okay. Will they split us up? Not if I have anything to say about it. The girl was quiet for a moment. Why are you helping us? Nobody else did. Jennifer thought about that question. Why had she gotten involved when everyone else had walked away? Why had she risked everything? Because someone needed to, she finally said. And sometimes, even when it's scary and hard and you don't know what the right answer is, you have to do something instead of nothing. The girl fell asleep there, her small hand clutching Jennifer's shirt. Jennifer lay awake until dawn, watching the sky slowly lighten through the window. When morning came, everything would change. She knew that. But for these few quiet hours, 2 children who'd been falling through the cracks were safe. And Jennifer realized that no matter what happened next, no matter what it cost her, she'd made the right choice, even if she was the only one who thought so. Jennifer called CPS at 8 o'clock in the morning. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone twice. The twins were still asleep in the guest room. Tom hadn't come home. A caseworker named Patricia answered. Jennifer recognized her voice from one of her previous calls. This is Jennifer Cole from Lincoln Elementary. I need to report that I currently have 2 children in my home, the Miller twins. I removed them from their apartment last night because they were alone and one was severely ill. There was a long pause on the other end. You removed them? Without authorization? Their father has been gone for at least 5 days. There was no food, no heat. The boy had a high fever. I didn't know what else to do. Ms. Cole, do you understand the severity of what you've done? You've taken children from their legal residence without permission or authority. That's custodial interference at minimum. Possibly kidnapping. Jennifer's stomach dropped, but she kept her voice steady. I understand. But those children were in immediate danger. I called your office multiple times. I was told someone would visit by end of day. Stir day, but no one came. We had an emergency situation with another family. The investigator couldn't make it to that address. So 2 children were left alone and sick while the system dealt with something else. I get that you're overwhelmed, I do. But someone had to do something. Patricia's voice was cold now. Someone did do something, Ms. Cole, you, and now you've created a legal nightmare. I'm sending an emergency response team to your address immediately. Do not leave with those children. Do you understand? I understand. And Ms. Cole, you should probably call a lawyer. The line went dead. Jennifer sat on the couch, phone still in her hand, reality crashing down on her. A lawyer, she needed a lawyer. She'd never needed a lawyer before in her life. The twins woke up an hour later. The boy's fever had broken. He looked weak but better. They ate breakfast together, cereal and toast, and the children seemed almost relaxed. Almost normal. Like this was what mornings were supposed to be like. Are we going to school today? The girl asked. Jennifer didn't know how to answer that. Not today. We're going to have some visitors this morning, people who want to help. The girl's eyes went wide with fear. She understood immediately. They're coming to take us. They're coming to figure out what's best for you and your brother. Being together is what's best. That's all we need, just to be together. Before Jennifer could respond, there was a knock at the door. Her heart jumped into her throat. She opened it to find 2 CPS caseworkers, a police officer, and Mr. Hendricks, her supervisor from school. The next hour was chaos. The caseworkers interviewed the twins separately. The police officer took Jennifer's statement. Mr. Hendricks stood in the corner with his arms crossed, not saying a word, but his disappointment was clear on his face. One of the caseworkers, a woman named Linda, was kinder than Patricia had been on the phone. She explained that the children would need to be placed in emergency foster care while they located the father and investigated the situation. Can they stay together? Jennifer asked him. Please, that's all they want. They just need to stay together. Linda's expression softened. I'll do my best, but I can't make promises. We have limited placements available, and finding one that can take 2 children on short notice is difficult. The girl was crying now, clutching her brother. The boy had his arms around her, whispering something Jennifer couldn't hear. What about me? Jennifer heard herself say. What if they stayed with me? Temporarily. Just until you find their father or figure out a permanent placement. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. Ms. Cole, Linda said carefully, you're not a licensed foster parent, and given that you removed these children without authorization, placing them with you would be highly irregular. But they know me. They trust me. Isn't that worth something? The police officer spoke up for the first time. Ma'am, you're lucky we're not arresting you right now. The only reason we're not is because the caseworkers believe you acted in the children's interest. But pushing this further isn't going to help anyone, Mr. Hendricks finally spoke. Jennifer, a word outside, they stepped onto the front porch. The morning was cold and gray. Mr. Hendricks looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What were you thinking? He asked. I was thinking those kids needed help. By breaking the law? By throwing away your career? You know you're done, right? The school board will have no choice but to terminate you. You violated every ethical guideline we have. Jennifer felt tears sting her eyes, but she blinked them back. I know, then why? Why would you do this? Because everyone else was letting them fall. Including me at first. I saw them struggling for weeks, and I filled out the right forms and made the right calls and followed all the procedures. And you know what? They were still falling, so I stopped following procedures and started actually helping. Mr. Hendricks shook his head. You can't save every child, Jennifer. The sooner you learn that, the better. Maybe not, but I could save these 2. And I did. At what cost? Jennifer looked through the window at the twins sitting on the couch, still holding on to each other. Whatever it takes. Inside, Linda was making phone calls, trying to find placement. It wasn't going well. Jennifer could tell from her tone. Finally, Linda hung up and rubbed her temples. I have a placement, she said, but it's only for 1 child. The foster home can take the girl, but they're not equipped for both. No. The boy's voice was firm, stronger than Jennifer had ever heard it. We stay together. I understand this is hard. You don't understand anything. The girl stood up now too, her voice shaking with anger. Everyone says they want to help, but nobody does. Nobody sees us. Nobody cares. Except her. She pointed at Jennifer. She's the only one who actually did something. The room fell silent. Even the police officer looked uncomfortable. Linda tried again. Let me make some more calls. Give me an hour. But Jennifer knew how this would end. She'd worked with the system long enough to know. There weren't enough foster homes. There weren't enough resources. The twins would be separated because that was the only option available. Unless. I want to apply for emergency foster certification, Jennifer said. Right now. Whatever I need to do, whatever forms I need to fill out, I'll do it. Linda looked at her supervisor through a video call she'd set up. They had a whispered conversation Jennifer couldn't hear. Finally, Linda turned back. It's not impossible, but it's complicated. Given the circumstances of how you came to have the children, there would be intense scrutiny. Multiple home visits, background checks, interviews, and even then it might not be approved. I'll do whatever it takes. Ms. Cole, do you have a lawyer? Not yet. You're going to need one. For this, and for the potential charges you're facing. Jennifer thought about her savings account, the wedding fund she and Tom had been building, the down payment for the house they'd planned to buy. It would all be gone. Tom might be gone too, but looking at those two children, remembering how invisible they'd been to everyone else, she knew she couldn't walk away now. Tell me what I need to do, she said. The rest of the day was a blur of paperwork and phone calls. Linda agreed to keep the children with Jennifer temporarily, under supervision, while the emergency foster application was processed. It was highly unusual, but Linda seemed to understand that separating the twins would cause more harm than good. The police officer left without pressing charges, but warned Jennifer that the situation was still under investigation. Mr. Hendricks left too, telling her she'd receive official notice of her termination within the week. Tom came home that evening. He stood in the doorway looking at Jennifer, at the twins doing homework at the kitchen table, at the chaos their life had become in less than 24 hours. I can't do this, he said quietly. Jennifer had been expecting it, but it still hurt. I understand. No, you don't. You jumped into this without thinking about anyone else, without thinking about us, about our future. I'm sorry. Are you? Because you don't seem sorry. You seem like you'd do it all over again. Jennifer looked at the twins. The boy was helping his sister with a math problem. They were clean and fed and safe. I would, she admitted. Tom shook his head. Then we want different things, he left. Really left this time. Jennifer heard his car pull away and knew he wasn't coming back. That night after the twins went to bed, Jennifer sat alone in the kitchen. No job, no fiancé, potentially facing criminal charges. Her whole life had imploded in 48 hours. Her phone rang. It was a lawyer named Andrew Chen who Linda had recommended. He specialized in child welfare cases. I've reviewed the basics of your situation, he said. I'm not going to lie to you, Ms. Cole, this is going to be difficult. The foster certification process is thorough in the best circumstances. In your situation, with the questionable removal of the children, it's going to be even harder. The county is going to fight this. Can we win? Maybe. If we can prove that you acted in the children's best interest. If we can demonstrate that the system failed these kids. If we can show that keeping them together with someone they trust is better than separating them into unfamiliar homes. How much will this cost? He named a figure that made Jennifer's stomach drop. Her entire savings, plus she'd need to take out a loan. I'll find the money, she said. There's something else you should know. I spoke with the investigator who's been assigned to locate the father. He was found this morning. He's in a rehabilitation facility 2 states away. Voluntary admission. He's been there for 6 days. He just left them, Jennifer said. He left his children alone and went to rehab without telling anyone. It appears so. He'll be interviewed in the coming days. But Miss Cole, this is going to get worse before it gets better. The media might pick this up. Your actions, while well-intentioned, were illegal. You're going to be scrutinized, possibly vilified. Jennifer thought about that. Her name in the papers. People judging her, calling her reckless, calling her a criminal. I don't care, she said. Then I'll take your case. We'll fight for those kids. After they hung up, Jennifer walked quietly to the guest room. Both twins were asleep, the girl's arm thrown protectively over her brother even in sleep. Jennifer had lost almost everything in 2 days. But looking at those children, she knew she'd gained something too. Purpose, conviction. The certainty that sometimes doing the right thing means breaking all tea. He rules the battle ahead would be brutal, but she was ready to fight. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks after Jennifer took the twins home. 3 weeks that felt like 3 years. The media did pick up the story just like Andrew Chen had warned. School counselor takes children without authorization, read one headline. Good Samaritan or kidnapper? Asked another. Jennifer stopped reading the news after the first few days. Half the comments called her a hero. The other half called her dangerous and reckless. The school board held an emergency meeting and terminated her employment. No severance. No recommendation. Just a letter stating she'd violated professional ethics and endangered children by acting outside her authority. Never mind that those same children had been endangered for weeks while everyone followed proper channels. CPS conducted 3 home visits in the first week alone. They inspected every room, interviewed the twins separately, asked Jennifer hundreds of questions. Were the children being fed properly? Did they have their own beds? Were they attending school? Was there any indication of harm? The twins were enrolled in a different elementary school near Jennifer's house. Linda, the kind caseworker, had arranged it. The children seemed to be adjusting, though the girl still had nightmares and the boy barely spoke in class. But they were together. That was what mattered. Jennifer's savings evaporated quickly. Lawyer fees, food and clothes for 2 growing children, the mortgage on her house. She picked up a job waitressing at a diner downtown, working late shifts after the twins went to bed. Her feet ached constantly and she was exhausted, but she couldn't afford to stop. Tom called once, 2 weeks in. He asked how she was doing. She told him the truth. Broke, tired, scared, but certain she'd made the right choice. He was quiet for a long moment, then said he hoped things worked out for her. The call ended awkwardly. She knew he'd moved on. She was trying to do the same. The twins' father, Robert Miller, was interviewed by CPS while still in rehabilitation. According to the report Andrew showed Jennifer, he'd admitted to struggling with substance abuse for over a year. After losing his job, he'd spiraled. He claimed he'd left money for the children and only planned to be gone for a day or 2. But one day became 2, became 5, and he couldn't bring himself to leave the facility once he was finally getting help. He signed papers voluntarily terminating his parental rights. Andrew said it was the best possible outcome for Jennifer's case, but reading those documents made her sad anyway. Those children had lost both parents now, their mother years ago, their father to his own demons. The custody hearing finally arrived on a cold morning in December. The courthouse was imposing, all marble floors and echoing hallways. Jennifer wore the only professional outfit she still owned. The twins sat beside her on a wooden bench outside the courtroom, dressed in nice clothes Jennifer had bought at a thrift store. "Are you scared?" the girl asked quietly. "A little," Jennifer admitted. "Are you?" "Yeah. What if they say we can't stay with you?" Jennifer took both their hands. "Then we'll figure out the next step. But I'm going to fight as hard as I can to keep you both. I promise." Inside the courtroom, the county's attorney was a stern woman named Ms. Patterson, who laid out the case against Jennifer methodically. She spoke about protocol and procedure, about the importance of following proper channels, about how Jennifer's actions, however well-intentioned, had violated the law. Ms. Cole removed 2 children from their home without legal authority, Ms. Patterson said. She had no training as a foster parent. She made no attempt to contact law enforcement before taking custody. Her actions, while perhaps motivated by concern, were reckless and potentially dangerous. The state cannot condone this behavior by granting her custody of these children. Andrew stood to present Jennifer's case. He called witnesses. Linda, the CPS caseworker, testified that Jennifer had indeed filed multiple reports about the children, that she'd followed proper procedure and been told the case was low priority, that when she'd finally found the children alone and endangered, the system had failed to respond quickly enough. Ms. Cole was faced with an impossible choice, Linda said. Leave 2 children alone in a freezing apartment with no food and a serious illness, or act immediately to help them. She chose to help. Perhaps she should have called 911 first, but her instinct was to protect those children, and that instinct saved their lives. Mr. Hendricks was called to testify. Jennifer was surprised to see him. He explained that he'd warned Jennifer about getting too involved, about maintaining professional boundaries. But then he said something that made Jennifer's throat tight. "I've been in education for 30 years, he said. I've seen a lot of counselors come and go. Most of them burn out because they care too much. Ms. Cole cared too much. She crossed lines she shouldn't have crossed, but I've been thinking about those children. And the truth is, I saw them struggling too. We all did, and we all did the minimum required of us. We filed our reports and went home. Ms. Cole did more than the minimum. Maybe she did too much, but at least she did something. The judge listened carefully to everything. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through people. Then it was time for the twins to speak. The girl went first. She walked to the witness stand with her shoulders back, trying to be brave. The judge spoke to her gently, asking her about school, about how she felt living with Jennifer, about what she wanted. "I just want to stay with my brother," the girl said, her voice small but steady. "And I want to stay with Ms. Cole. She's the only person who saw us. Everyone else looked right past us like we were invisible. But she saw us. She saw that we were drowning and she jumped in to save us." The boy was called next. He'd barely spoken during the entire 3 weeks, not to the caseworkers, not to the therapist Linda had arranged, barely even to Jennifer. But now, standing in front of the judge, he found his voice. "Nobody wanted to help us," he said quietly. "They'd see my sister and me and they'd look sad for a second, but then they'd look away. Like if they didn't look at us, we weren't their problem." Ms. Cole didn't look away. She kept looking, and when she saw how bad things were, she did something about it. He paused, his hands gripping the edge of the witness stand. "I know she's in trouble because of us. I know she lost her job and her boyfriend person. I know we messed up her whole life. But she gave us ours back. Before her, we were just falling, and everyone was watching us fall and nobody was catching us." His voice cracked. "She caught us." The courtroom was silent. Even Ms. Patterson looked moved. The judge called for a recess. Jennifer, Andrew, and the twins waited in the hallway for 90 minutes that felt like days. The twins sat close to Jennifer, one on each side. She put her arms around them and held on tight. When they were called back in, the judge had made her decision. "This is an unusual case," she began. Ms. Cole's actions were, from a legal standpoint, problematic. She removed children from their home without authorization. However, the circumstances were extraordinary. 2 children were abandoned and endangered. The system, while following its procedures, failed to respond with appropriate urgency. Jennifer held her breath. "I've reviewed the home studies conducted over the past 3 weeks. I've read the reports from the children's teachers, their therapists, the caseworkers. All indicate that the children are thriving in Ms. Cole's care. They're attending school regularly. They're receiving proper nutrition and medical care. Most importantly, they feel safe." The judge looked directly at Jennifer. "Ms. Cole, what you did was legally questionable, but it was morally sound. Sometimes the law and morality don't align perfectly, and this is one of those cases. I'm granting you emergency foster certification and temporary custody of both children, pending final adoption proceedings." Jennifer felt tears stream down her face. The girl grabbed her hand and squeezed so hard it hurt. The boy was crying too, silently, his shoulders shaking. "However," the judge continued, "let me be clear. This ruling should not be seen as an endorsement of taking matters into your own hands. Ms. Cole is fortunate that this situation resolved positively. Others who might try to replicate her actions could face serious consequences. The proper channels exist for a reason, and they must be used. But this case has highlighted serious failures in our child welfare system that need to be addressed." She banged her gavel. "Court is adjourned." Outside the courthouse, Andrew shook Jennifer's hand. "You did it," he said. "Against all odds." "We did it," Jennifer corrected. "Thank you." The twins hugged her, both of them talking at once, relief and joy spilling out in a rush of words. Jennifer knelt down and hugged them back, not caring that people were watching, not caring about anything except this moment. 2 years later, Jennifer stood in a different courtroom. This time the hearing was simple and joyful. The adoption was finalized. The twins were legally hers. They took photos on the courthouse steps, all 3 of them smiling. Jennifer had found new work as an advocate for foster care reform. She spoke at conferences, testified before legislative committees, pushed for changes to reporting requirements and response TI. Her story had become a catalyst for real change in the system. The twins were doing well in school. They'd both started therapy and were working through their trauma. They had friends now. They laughed more. They didn't flinch when someone walked too close. Tom had moved on and married someone else. Jennifer was dating a teacher named Kevin, who'd met the twins and immediately loved them. He understood that they came as a package deal. That Jennifer's life had changed permanently that day. She'd chosen to see what others ignored. On the evening after the adoption was finalized, they celebrated with pizza and cake. The twins had started calling Jennifer Mom a few months ago. It had happened naturally, no big announcement, just the girl saying, Mom, can you help me with my homework? One afternoon like it was the most normal thing in the world. After the twins went to bed, Jennifer sat on the porch in the cold December air, thinking about how far they'd all come. She'd lost her career, her relationship, her savings, her reputation for a while, but she'd gained a family. She'd gained purpose. She'd gained the certainty that sometimes breaking all the rules is the right thing to do. She thought about all the other children out there, falling through the cracks while people looked away. And she thought about what the boy had said in court. Everyone was watching us fall and nobody was catching us. Not everyone was catching them yet. But more people were starting to look. More people were starting to see. More people were choosing not to turn away. And sometimes Jennifer thought that's how change happens. One person at a time. One choice at a time. One child caught instead of allowed to fall. She went back inside where her children were sleeping safely in their beds and closed the door on the cold night. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight they were home, and that was everything.